Having arrived in Salem for the evening, I decided to get settled into my rather creepy apartment. Pretty to look at, but it was nonetheless a little bit creepy. I took myself out for the evening because it was a little bit too late to get anything else done, but I couldn't wait to get down Essex Street and see all of my favourite houses. I just wanted to enjoy sort of walking through the town, heading over to Salem Common and just enjoying the evening air while I ponder what it is that I'm about to do for the rest of the week. I needed to grab some dinner before turning in for the night, so I headed over to the lovely Gulu Gulu, helped myself to a non-alcoholic cocktail and this beast of a chili dog. I had a beautiful walk back through the neighbourhood, passing some of my favourite locations, including the Witch House, which just looks so good at sunset. So I've arrived here in Salem last night. I got just enough time to be able to go and get myself some dinner and to go and have a look around the Salem Common before settling in for the night and getting ready for what is going to be a really busy and glorious day today. It's completely different weather from what it was when I came back in February. It's so nice to be able to actually see everything and it's not just absolutely covered in snow. I'm going to be taking you around some of the places that I visited in February so you can actually see it. But also we're going to see lots of new places that we didn't get to do last time. Because it was out of season, it just meant that there was lots of stuff that was shut. But also I've had a bit more development in the whole descendant story since my visit in February. As you all know, I found out that Rebecca Nurse was my 8th great grand aunt. I struggled to find out where the bloodline actually came through from, and that was a lot of the work that I had to go away and do when I got back. Well, it turns out that her father, William Town, is my 8th great grandfather. So my maternal line descends from William Town, which means his daughters Rebecca Nurse, Mary Easty and Sarah Cloyce are all my direct ancestors. These 3 sisters are famously known because the whole family was blighted by the witch trials of 1692. Rebecca Nurse we've explored and we know her story. We will get to visit Rebecca Nurse's homestead this time around. However, we didn't touch on Sarah Cloyce and we didn't touch on Mary Easty. 2 out of the 3 sisters unfortunately did die in the 1692 witch trials. They were both hung for the crime of witchcraft. Sarah Cloyce, however, did manage to escape that particular fate, and by the time the hysteria of the witch trials in 1692 had died down, she'd managed to escape the fate of hanging. So obviously it was an amazing revelation to find that there was not just one ancestor. In fact, the 3 sisters are all my 8th great grand aunts. There is one more that I managed to discover in the research, and that would be Elizabeth Howe. However, Elizabeth isn't a bloodline relative of mine. She is actually an ancestor by marriage. Add in the marriage element, technically there are 4 ancestors that unfortunately were victims of the witch trials of 1692. So that's the descendant part, and of course we're going to do lots of that. However, today I get to see my friend Emma, who lives just over the way in Boston. She's coming with me for the day. We're going to explore Salem, we're going to do the shops, we're going to go down to the wharf, we're going to do all the really fun, nice stuff. And tonight I've also got a ghost hunt.
You too. Bye.
Shopping in Salem is such a huge highlight for anyone that visits. There is literally something for everybody here, and I love the fact that I got to go down to the wharf and all the shops that are down there this time, because last time it was snowing and half of the shops were actually shut. Salem is a harbour town, so it actually gives it a whole different dynamic when you head down to the wharf. And it was great to have Emma with me because she got to show me all of her favourite haunts. We decided to end the day on a rooftop terrace bar and have ourselves a nice cocktail. This is at Hotel Salem on Essex Street, and it gives you panoramic views of the city, which is really cool. Okay, so I have just finished for the day with Emma. We've done a shitload of shopping and I've said goodbye to her now, which is kind of sad, but it also means that I am now off for my ghost hunt. And we have got access to loads of ghost hunting equipment, and we're going to go to lots of different historic sites with some well-known sightings in the area. And so Say hello. Yes, so we're gonna go and do the ghost hunt, and I'm gonna bring you along with me if I'm allowed to, which I should be able to. It's about a 15-minute walk from here, so the place that I'm staying at is literally a short distance from pretty much all the main attractions, which is why I chose it. Obviously it's a historic house, I can go over a little bit of that, but it's very, very old. I think it was built in 1803. All the historic buildings here that were kind of significant builds have all got their own little plaque on the buildings, so it gives you an idea of who it was who built it, and when it was actually built. For the spirit box, I wanted to just try to see if this would be in the red region. You can see that is in the red region.
Turning with the dark.
It's not turning off at all. I'm so glad you witnessed that and that wasn't just me going crazy.
No.
That's why when I was stood here,
trying
kept trying to listen to you. I was trying to press it off because I was like, I'm really trying to pay attention.
I'm trying to move.
No speaking. Speaking.
Yeah.
No speaking.
Yeah.
Are you witnessing that?
Yeah. I'm witnessing it.
It won't. I'm so glad I'm not the only one that's like.
It's look at.
Get them to bring theirs down and see if they're picking up on a similar thing. Okay, I'm going to go over here and see if it just switches off. Literally ticking through all the channels, like.
That's crazy.
Can you hear the ticking?
Look, it won't even.
It won't let me turn it off. It will not turn off.
Yeah.
Like, we have tried this whole time. So after that experience, it was pretty much nothing after that. We visited lots of other sites, and that was definitely the most active. It was Witch City walking tours for those of you that are interested in doing a tour yourselves. Today is the first full day of activities by myself, so I thought it'd be best to treat myself to an IHOP, and this was the best breakfast I think I've ever had. It set me up really good for the day, so now I'm heading off towards the Rebecca Nurse homestead. So I've just arrived at the Rebecca Nurse homestead. You can see it just here in the background. It's that reddish brown building. I have to be really cautious about what I do and don't do here. They have quite strict rules about filming and photography, so we'll just see what I can and can't do, but this might be as close as I can actually get on camera. Be interesting to find out a little bit more about where she lived with her family and just get a general sense of who she was when she was alive. I've just finished the house tour, so now I'm off to the family burial site. There's nothing that I could really film while I was actually on the homestead itself, so this is going to be the next best thing. The homestead is only open seasonally. I made that mistake on my last trip, so if you are wanting to see it, make sure you check the website in advance. So the tour of the homestead was really, really interesting actually, and there was an awful lot of information that they managed to squeeze in about Rebecca Nurse as a person, about her life, about her family, about this acquiring of this amazing farmland, which originally was 300 acres worth. It's probably the equivalent of about 20 odd acres worth today. And she gave us a lot more information about her death and the process of being accused and how that actually happened. It's crazy to think that there are parts of that building that still stand today where Rebecca and her husband Francis would have slept, where their 8 children would have at one point been born and lived. It's crazy also to think that she was ill in that very house, and when she was accused, that was the very house that she would have learned that she was accused of the crime of witchcraft. And she was actually very poorly in the lead up to that particular moment. She'd been in bed for days. This is the graveyard where there are a lot of family members of hers that are buried here. It's speculated that Rebecca is obviously in an unmarked grave on this particular plot of land. There are various different families from that time period that are buried here because the house eventually changed hands from the nurses and went to the very famous Putnam family, which is why you will see a lot of headstones for the Putnams as well. Frances Nurse, her husband, is actually buried here. He was a sergeant in the Revolutionary War. Rebecca was actually one of the first people to be memorialised in the town of Salem, and her case is probably one of the most famous of them all. And that's partly down to the fact that she was such an upstanding pillar of the community at the time. She was on the congregation at the church, of which you had to be voted in, so it wasn't as simple as just joining. The fact that she was accused, then acquitted, then reaccused and ultimately charged. And then add on the fact that obviously there's a familial element with her sisters as well. This is also one of the only homesteads standing from basically all of the victims in the 1692 witch trials of Salem. So you get an awful lot of visitors that come to this that are descendants from others that aren't necessarily descendant of Rebecca, but it's the closest thing that they really have to be able to get a feel for what life was actually like in New England. So it's time to leave the homestead and head to my next planned adventure, and that is visiting the spiritualist church that is literally on the street I am staying on. For those of you who don't know, I have recently joined the spiritualist church near me in England, and this was an opportunity for me to receive a trance healing while I'm here. I can't film that for obvious reasons, but it was amazing. When I say I'm super busy today, I'm not lying. I'm literally jumping straight into an Uber and now heading to the next location, which is the Satanic Temple. This is the temple's HQ, but also it is actually a public art gallery. I think it was about $15 to get in, and there is an awful lot to see. They have plenty of artists, artefacts, and a library as well. And of course the infamous Baphomet statue. Just look at the date that I actually ended up attending on. I just thought that was so uncanny, and it was totally unplanned. I was so shocked when I saw everybody's dates they'd wrote down. By this time I'm absolutely exhausted, so it's literally a quick freshen up back at my room and then out for a quick bite to eat before heading out to the cinema for the evening. I thought there was nothing better to do when you're by yourself in Salem than go and see a horror movie, so I chose Obsession this time, and it was honestly excellent. Absolutely loved it. Do not recommend buttered popcorn whatsoever. I tried it for the first time and it really grimmed me out, in all honesty. Morning. So today I'm actually going to get myself down to the memorial. This is because, as I mentioned, there is a lot more to this story than just Rebecca Nurse that I came to explore back in February. I unlocked the details of my family tree after hours and hours and adding over 1,000 people to my various different tranches. And this meant that I could truly discover what lay on my maternal line. 3 sisters, the Town sisters, my 8th great-grandfather's daughters, they were all involved in the witch trials of 1692. And so there is more tragedy to this story than originally met the eye. So today is more about discovering about them. So first we have Mary Eastie. She was 58 at the time of her arrest. She was accused in April of 1692. She was temporarily released after an initial examination, exactly like Rebecca, but then she was unfortunately rearrested and then subsequently charged with witchcraft. She was executed in the September of that year, so a couple of months after her sister Rebecca, and she left behind an eloquent, moving petition to the court asking them to stop using spectral evidence to condemn innocent people. So Mary and Rebecca were both executed, and the names of them, along with many others, were finally cleared in the year 1711. Sarah Cloyce was the 3rd Town sister, and she was too arrested and convicted of the crime of witchcraft, but she was sent to prison where she lay in wait for the final sentencing. The chaos of 1692 actually only lasted little more than a year, which I think is really surprising, and due to that she was thankfully released some 9 months later in 1693, where she managed to escape the fate of her 2 sisters. So the Town sisters, 2 executed and 1 that thankfully survived. And there is one last person in all of this. This last person I need to visit as well. She is not part of my maternal bloodline, but she is by marriage. So Elizabeth Howe is connected through the intermarried Salem families around the towns and the Howes. Elizabeth Howe was interestingly executed on the same day at the same time as Rebecca Nurse. And this was after several girls in the village actually accused Elizabeth of witchcraft and causing their afflictions. Her trial was actually known as one of the most chaotic because a couple of those girls that were giving testimony actually went into fits and caused a crazy scene during the actual trial. So it's been great to kind of head here and be able to pay respects for all of those ancestors that I have. And I couldn't have imagined that that would have been what unfolded when I started to uncover the connection here in Salem, some 6 months ago. It's worth mentioning as well, it is believed when speaking to the guides at Rebecca Nurse's homestead that there are possibly over 1 million descendants across the globe of hers in particular. Rebecca had roughly 48 grandchildren at the time that she was alive, so that doesn't account for any grandchildren she had when she'd been executed. The Puritans were super busy in the sheets. It wasn't unusual to have a big family, but Rebecca's is one of the largest, so there are potentially thousands, if not millions of people out there who have no idea about this family history. And this is why I am building in my new business, Craft House, which is an occult bookshop, a whole section on Salem 1692. So I'm off to Proctor's Ledge again that I visited back in February, and this time I should be able to see all of it rather than just the bits that I've managed to dig out. It's in a really urban area, which can kind of throw you off a little bit, but here it is in all its glory. Obviously this time I'm paying my respects to 3 people, not just the one, and I wanted to grab a couple of photographs for safekeeping this time as well. I've just seen that glorious memorial where people are hanging up their scrunchies, and funnily enough I'm actually wearing one today on my wrist, which never happens, by the way. I don't do wearing scrunchies on my wrist, so that feels kind of strange that I felt the need to do that this morning without realising. So I have one, and it means that I'm going to be able to do just that, so let's do it. Next on the list today is heading over to the Pioneer Village. This is a reconstruction village of what it might have looked like for Puritans to live in 1600s. This village gave me a really good understanding of what it may have looked like and felt like to live somewhere like this in this time, which can be really hard to imagine given how we live today. It's also been used as a set piece for Hocus Pocus, and you'll be able to see the cottage where Thackeray Binks lived before he was turned into a black cat. There is no rest for the wicked, so I decided to grab some lunch, and Salem is celebrating its 400th birthday this year, so there was lots of celebrations going on with an art festival. I took the opportunity to go and have another little mooch around the shops and all the artists and grab myself some of the little trinkets. The last task for today was to get myself an oil reading, which I've wanted to have done for ages since the last time I came. I went to House Witch, and it's definitely given me some inspiration for Craft House. It's the last day, so I've just gone to drop my bags off, and now I can go and revisit the Witch Trials Memorial and finish off any last minute shopping and grabbing any last minute bits that I want to bring home. I couldn't not stop off for one last Black Craft coffee. I think I've had every single one off the menu at this point, and they're all as amazing as each other. So I've come to the realisation that the more I learned about the Witch Trials of 1692 over the last 2 visits, the less it really has anything to do with witchcraft at all, and the further we get away from what modern day witchcraft really is. In my mind, it's offensive to suggest, and I've read it online, that you are a Salem Witch Trials Bloodline witch. Those 2 things They simply contradict one another, and the more you understand what truly happened in this town some 400 years ago, the more you realise there is no link to witchcraft at all. The further that I have anchored to my ancestors, the less I feel the desire to identify as a witch. My psychic tendencies or my penchant for a spell or two, they are not remotely related to the trauma that pervaded my bloodline. They are a different beast entirely, and one that I dare say we all possess, but have to learn to unlock and flex just like a muscle. Some choose to, and others would rather not. As I've come to the end of my time here in this mini-series, it's clear to me that this place feels like home because it is ancestral ground, not because of some magical blood running through my veins. My 8th great-grandfather brought his wife and children over to New England for a better life. Then 3 of his daughters were accused, arrested, convicted, and 2 killed for a flash-in-the-pan crime driven by Puritan belief systems, lack of scientific understanding, town gossip, and widespread fear of the devil infiltrating the church and state. If I carry anything in these veins, it is the generational trauma of what happened in this town and nothing more. To convince people otherwise would be damning my ancestors and spitting on their pardon for clout, and they frankly deserve so much better than that.